Welcome to the Health Coach Nation podcast. My name is Hailey Rowe, and I'm a sales and marketing coach and LinkedIn lead generation service provider. I work with health, life, and mindset coaches and online service-based business owners to help them get more sales, shift their time to the client-generating activities instead of just the busy work, and overcome that social media overwhelm. Let's get into the show. If you're ready to take on your next paying clients, I have good news. My free 4 Basics of Client Attraction and How to Stand Out class is live at haileyrowe.com/client-attraction. In the class, you're going to learn the top 2 traits I recommend for most coaches and entrepreneurs if they really want to turn this into a career. You're going to learn how you can build demand for your services and stop getting crickets on your posts. You're going to learn the sales roadmap I used to improve my sales conversion rate and help my clients do the same. And you're going to learn so much more. So go to haileyrowe.com/client-attraction and get your copy of the class today. Hey, I am live today with the one and only Liz Wilcox. She is the fresh princess of email marketing, and she's an email strategist, a keynote speaker, and she helps small businesses know how to build online relationships and make real money with emails. She's best known for her selling of her blog and turning that into a $9 offer. She also has turned a $9 offer into multiple 6 figures without ads. And she helps you untangle the email knot with her simple framework, the email staircase. She loves the 90s headbands, as she's wearing right here, and the beach. So Liz, thank you so much for being here. And I have to tell you, you are there's only one other person who's been on the podcast twice. You are the second person to ever be on the Health Coach Nation podcast a second time, and I'm so excited you're here. Before we kind of get into some questions about email marketing, I have to ask you, because you've been in online business a long time and you've had many different seasons. And I know that one of the things you first started with in your business was a book about poop, I believe. Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
Yeah. So I have to ask, were you like, oh yeah, this is going to be like a top seller, and you were really confident about it? Or were you like, this is a passion of mine and I have to get this out. I don't care if it's a business. Like, tell me more about what was the thought process there?
Yeah, so it definitely wasn't a passion of mine, right? So I actually got the idea from my audience. So while I didn't think it was going to be a bestseller, I knew it was going to be a seller, right? I wanted to sell a digital product. I was brand new to things. And, I asked my audience, why do you follow me? And they said, well, Liz, you're kind of funny. You can tell a good story. So I was in the RV travel industry. And I thought, well, what's funnier than when things go wrong in your RV, right? Like, let's laugh at our own pain here. We can all relate to that. And so I created this book called Tales from the Black Tank, a collection of hilariously crappy RV stories. And before I even created it, I sold it. I said, okay, well, if that's what you guys liked from me, this is my idea. Will you buy it? And I was able to, I think, get 2 pre-sales for $10 each. So I was like, oh my gosh, $20. Heck yeah, I'm gonna be rich, right? And so I created the book. It ended up making something like $7,000 in the first few months, and it still sells to this day.
Amazing. Who would have thought a book about that would make
I,
$7,000?
Not me. I thought maybe I could get, $100 and that would just give me a little bit of a taste for digital marketing. But it ended up getting picked up by an international sponsor.
Wow.
It became this sort of like infamous thing among the RV community.
Wow. Okay. So now you have a membership business and you help people with emails. So I'm curious, and that seems to be going extremely well. It's a 500K plus membership business. So knowing that you've transitioned to that, what have you found to be most important in having an offer that like people love and it's in high demand? Like, are there any lessons you've taken from these different offers?
Yes, I think it's just what I said about creating that book. You have to ask your audience. I teach something called the email staircase: follower, friend, customer. So a lot of people try to go from follower to customer really quickly, but you can do that after years of getting to know those friends, right? Those people that are really following you. You get to know them and then they tell you what they want, right? And it's only when you've been hearing, hey, I want this, I like this, I have this problem, that you can create products that really actually sell without you having to think too hard about it. For example, I have a $9 a month membership where I send out weekly templates for newsletters. I only knew that that would sell really well because I had spent 5 years previously, number one, being a content creator who had to send out weekly newsletters. And I'd never seen a product, where mostly people sell sales email templates, right? I'd never seen one for weekly newsletters. And then number two, asking my audience, hey, I'm actually really good at writing weekly newsletters. Is this something you'd be interested in? So I think the real lesson there is get to know your people so you know what the heck they want and sell them what they want.
Yeah, I love that. I think a lot of people, what I hear is like, I trying to talk to my people, but they're not talking to me, or they don't answer my polls, or I don't have a big audience. So what do you say to somebody who maybe is like in that phase where they feel like they're asking or they're trying to ask, but they're not necessarily getting answers?
Yeah, so I'm going to say this with love. What you're asking is too big. You need to start smaller. A lot of people might ask, "Oh, would you buy this? Do you like this?" et cetera, et cetera. But you've got to start with yes or no questions. Have you ever, like, for example, with my weekly newsletter, do you currently write a weekly newsletter? Hit reply, yes or no. That's going to give me a lot of information. And honestly, when you ask yes or no questions, people tend to elaborate. Versus if I ask, how do you feel about weekly newsletters? It's like, well, I don't know. And I don't really know this person that's asking this. So I'm gonna skip this question. I'm just gonna delete the email. When I ask, do you currently write a weekly newsletter? They know that right here in the forefront of their brain, right? So they can say, yes, and I hate it. No, but I know I should, right? And so then I'm actually getting their feelings without asking them. So if you find that you are asking questions and receiving crickets, it's like that Toy Story meme, like there's no sign of intelligent life out here. It's you probably need to uh, you know, reverse engineer your question and start really, really small to open up that conversation.
Yeah, making it easy for people to answer it, not like, oh, I got to really think about that, or how do I feel? Um, so, one of the other things that I notice in your emails and how you write copy is just how like friendly you are and approachable and authentic you are to you. And I think a lot of people, when I work with clients, they say like, I'm finding my voice. Like, I have to find my voice, and they make it this big thing. And the word authenticity gets used a lot in like how we create content. Any tips for people who want to like find their voice and communicate with authenticity, but maybe they're overthinking it or they haven't figured that part out yet?
Yeah. So if you want to communicate authentically, number one, you have to start communicating. You're not going to nail your own voice right off the bat. You have to just practice out loud, practice in public. And the beautiful part of this is when you're starting out, there's probably not a lot of people listening, right? You're going to get that ugly kind of awkwardness out of the way before you have a lot of followers, right? Before you've really nailed yourself, right? So let that be a little bit of pressure relief for you, right? The second thing, when you write something, I want you to read it out loud, especially if you use templates, mine or someone else's. Read it out loud. Do you find yourself adding here, subtracting there? That's where you know to edit. And speaking of edit, the third thing I want you to do is to stop editing yourself. And if you have to, like, write on a piece of paper. This is this is actually like a puke bag from the airline. I had an idea for an email and I just started writing. And so you will edit less because it's slower to write, and then you'll see what you actually write. This is a more authentic version of you than typing. And I know you might think, oh, well, that takes so much time, Liz. You're all about, writing in 20 minutes or less. But really, sometimes you got to slow down to speed up.
I love that. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I think one of the big things you mentioned is just start, because you're never going to iron out the kinks if you're always in your head about it and never putting it out there. So, one of the other things too that with your membership you have done is really grow it. And I think you hit like 1,000 members in your first year or something like that.
Yeah.
So, what have been both, like, and maybe this is two separate questions, best ways you've grown your membership and best ways you've grown your email list?
Yeah. So the best way I've grown my membership is to just talk about it. I mean, this is my second podcast today, right? And I think I've got a couple more before the week's end, got to wrap it up before the holidays, right? And so the best way that I've grown that membership is just to talk about it, to constantly sell it. And I know, oh my gosh, I don't want to sell. Well, why not? Your products are for serving, not selling. So when I talk about my membership, I just think, I'm finding the right person. I'm serving them. I'm actually doing a disservice to the people that need me and my product if I don't talk about it. So I talk about my membership all the time. And it's the same with my email list. The more I can talk about my email list, the more it grows. Now, I've already mentioned I do podcasts. That's been my main way of growing this email list. And I know Hailey was one of the first podcasts that I was on for lizwilcox.com and email marketing. And since I think that was like April 2021, 3.5, almost 4 years later, I've been on close to 300 podcasts since Hailey's. And that's how, at the end, when they say, where can we find out more? I don't stumble. I have a succinct, hey, we talked about X. I have X over here. Join my email list. So that's been a great way to grow the list. And then the membership and the email list work together. So nowadays I have an affiliate program where if you get someone to join my email marketing membership, I give you 50% every single month. And so that's been a way of getting people on my email list by being customers. So they're already sold. They're joining as a customer. And that has been like the secret nobody talks about. If you can grow your list of customers, oh my gosh, you're gonna have, a living, if not a killing, very, very soon.
I love it. Amazing. Yeah. So partnerships, collaborations, being on podcasts. And I think one of the other things that I have seen you do now, this is totally probably not part of your strategy, but you were on Survivor. And we have to talk about that because
Sure.
as someone I've seen you so dedicated to your business, being on 300 podcasts, like going for it. First, were you worried about like putting your business on pause to go be on Survivor, or what were your concerns or thoughts about that?
Yeah, I was worried. Oh my gosh, what if something starts on fire, so to speak, right? I'm not going to be there. And so I spent months planning my sort of temporary exit. I hired an operations manager. I had a part-time employee that went full-time in the business. And then actually out on the island, the day before we came home, everyone was talking about this brand new thing called Chat GPT. And I thought, oh my gosh, when I get home, everyone will have canceled their membership. The robots have taken over, oh my gosh, do I even have a business to go home to? And then of course, when I got home, my full-time employee was like, yeah, I mean, we've had cancellations, but no more than normal. I was like, phew, I thought I was going to come home to the robot overlords over here. Like, because I had barely even heard of ChatGPT when I left for the island. So it had just started to explode while I was out playing. But to me, I actually love that I went on Survivor. It's actually built my business where I don't have to be the bottleneck, and I'm not anymore. In fact, I'm just pretty much the face of it, right? I come on, I talk to Hailey, I'm in my Facebook group chatting with people, I do my Q&A. I write my templates for my membership, and then I sort of get out of everyone else's way, right? I'm not the one holding up in the inbox or whatever, a million other ways we visionaries, slow down progress because now we have systems. We have things where, we've defined what means done, for my employee. We've defined, what can wait for later. We've defined even when Liz has an idea and she says, let's do this now, what does that actually mean? What other projects? And it gives my employee permission to say, hey, actually, you said that 2 weeks ago. And so we're doing this. So which one is, takes precedence? And she's been empowered in that way. And if I didn't go on Survivor, we never would have even thought through those scenarios. So now it's kind of like we have, like a prenup right before you get married. You list out all of these scenarios. If this, then that. If this, we have all of those systems in place now, and they've been running for a year and a half, and they've made business so much easier.
Wow, that's awesome. And why Survivor? What inspired that?
It's $1 million. Well, number one, I love the show. I've watched it on and off my whole life. And I always thought I would do so well on that. That show would be so easy. And I guess my daughter got tired of me saying it and she dared me to apply. She said, are you going to talk about it or are you going to do it? And I said, oh, I'm going to do it. I've got my 9 o'clock canceled tomorrow. I'm putting in my phone. I'm going to apply tomorrow at 9 a.m. And she said, I'll believe you when I see you on that TV. And so I applied the next day. But for me, I don't know, maybe a lot of entrepreneurs can relate. I'm not sure. I'm just someone who, if I've got the feeling, I just really want to try it out. I really, believe in myself in that way of like, oh, maybe I could try that. I could try that. Let me do that. And so Survivor just seemed like one of those things that most people wouldn't dare, which obviously made it extremely appealing to me.
Wow. Oh my gosh. So you went, and I believe that you were allergic to coconut or something. I was hearing you on another podcast, and
Yeah.
it didn't go so well. So tell us about the experience and tell me, what do you think was harder, having a business and the ups and downs of that, or surviving for your life on Survivor, and why, or different types of hard? Just share what your thoughts are.
Yeah, so Survivor, I thought it would be easy, and I actually thought the game itself was pretty easy. I got fourth place. That means I outlasted, 90% of the competition. I was the last person to be eliminated, and I wasn't eliminated because they voted me out. I was eliminated because I couldn't make fire fast enough. So that was my sort of kryptonite there. But the actual not eating, of course, that was incredibly difficult. If you Google Liz Survivor, you'll laugh at what I just said about it being easy. I was shown as someone who was struggling the entire time because I wasn't eating. So the not eating part was incredibly difficult. My body is still recovering a year and a half later, and I think I've probably got another year to go with that. But as far as business goes, I think they use very similar skill sets, resiliency, the ability to just beyond what evidence there is to just keep going, right? To think, oh, I could win Survivor is the same sort of audacity as, oh, I could build a 6, 7 figure business, right? You have to have a certain level, and some people might push back here, but you have to have a certain level of delusion, right? Most people, I could never, I could never, I could never, right? But we entrepreneurs believe, well, maybe I could. And so it was that same level of difficulty on Survivor as it is in business to keep going.
Yeah, I love that. And I have to ask you, because now you're back in business and you've gone through all that. Do you feel like it really put things in perspective? Like, are you like, oh my God, like a cancellation is a breeze? Like if I was starving, I feel like everything after that would just be like, whatever, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, if whenever I'm having a bad day or I think, "Oh, I can't do this. I'm too tired." I think back to the fact that I ate 0 calories in very close to 5 full days after only eating about 800 calories in 3 weeks. So if I can do that, yes, surely I can hit send on this email. Surely I can go live with Hailey, even though, I'm tired from lunch. Surely I can send out one more email before cart close. So it's really, yes, it's really put things in perspective for me for sure.
Yeah. What did your daughter say about the whole thing?
Oh, she loved it. She just wished that I would have gotten more screen time. She's like, "Why aren't you on the screen 24/7?" I'm like, "Well, there's 18 people. It's hard to show everyone." But she loved it. I think she had a lot of fun with it. She's a huge Survivor fan. But I think her favorite part of me being on Survivor is that she gets to meet other players now. For example, we went to a charity event last weekend where she got to meet, some of her favorite players from Survivor and Big Brother. And so now I think she's living that great nepotism life of like, oh yeah, well, my mom was on Survivor, so I can be in this room too. And so that's, I think, been the coolest part, because of course I didn't win. So that sucks, right? But the coolest part for me as a mom has been to be able to see Chelsea, my daughter, enjoy the accolades, so to speak.
Nice. That's awesome. Okay, so now that and one of the things too, just because I've seen that show and you have probably experienced this, is any reality show tries to tell a story about each person on the show. And like, I even interviewed a long time ago for America's Got Talent, and they were like, "You're talented for singing," but they were like, "But you don't have like a real story we can pull out, or like you need a better story, because people don't want to just see someone who's normal and like, so and that applies to business too. I think you need to have a brand story, or you need to tell stories in your marketing and things like that. So what advice would you give to people listening here who are like trying to figure out, how do I incorporate telling more stories, or how do I make myself more interesting? Because like, to me, you are somebody who's very interesting. You put in your pizzazz, like you're like, I love 90s, I love pop stars, so how can somebody who's feeling stuck, like I'm just very boring, how can they start to incorporate stories?
Yeah, so stories feels like a big word. Suddenly, if you say story, I'm thinking of my 10th grade creative writing teacher and her red pen, right? And it's just like, oh my gosh, well, I'm not a good storyteller. I don't know. I'm boring. Things like that, right? So I want you to, just relax, and instead of trying to tell a story, why not just give people a personal update about your life? It's the same way when we get on the phone. Hey Hailey, oh, how you doing? Oh, I'm great. Oh, well, I drove Chelsea to school today, and then I had to go to the mall, and they didn't have my shoe size. Anyway, what I'm calling about is dot 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 dot, right? You can do the same in your social media, right? Just share a little personal update. That personal update was, oh, I took Chelsea to school and I went to the mall, right? So personal update is just 2 to 3 sentences about something you've done since the last time you contacted your email list, posted on Instagram, whatever, right? And the personal update is just enough to showcase a little personality, show that you're invested in your reader by sharing a little bit, right? And becoming relatable, right? That's the point of storytelling, to relate to humanity, right? But the thing is, like humans, we want to relate to each other. So we don't need a big, long, drawn out, beautiful story, right? But we can do just that same thing with a personal update. So personal updates can be, oh, I went to the mall. My mic went out during a podcast interview. My appliance is broken and the guy's on his way here. I took my dog for a walk. Last night, my daughter and I drove around the neighborhood in our golf cart taking pictures of all the most ridiculous Florida decorations, right? And you're smiling. You're like, oh, yeah, I would love that. Or, yeah, Florida does have some Christmas in Florida. I can't imagine it, right? You're trying to relate in a certain way. But those were all 1 to 3 sentences, really, really short. So if you're worried about being boring telling a story, instead give a personal update.
Okay, I like that. That's a good way to ease into it and not make it so intimidating. What are some other maybe misconceptions people have about writing emails, using email marketing, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think a giant misconception other than you gotta tell a story every time is that it has to be this big, long funnel. Really, email marketing is just 3 things. Number 1, a welcome sequence, right? When I join your email list, you send me out, some expectations about what's going to happen. Number 2, weekly newsletters, right? Those timely emails. The welcome sequence, that's evergreen. You automate it, you leave it. Then you send out these newsletters, which I just told you, give a personal update, and then just put your content. Anyway, what I really wanted to share is my new podcast or whatever, right? And then the third are sales emails. A lot of people try to just skip to the sales emails, right? They try to put it in the welcome sequence. But we already talked about skipping that friend step in those first few years can be really hard to make sales, right? Because you don't actually know who you're talking to, right? And so in sales, just remember that it is your job to sell. And so sprinkle them in a newsletter. Hey, I just took my dog for a walk. Anyway, here's the new podcast episode on topic X. Oh, by the way, topic X, I actually have, a PDF guide for $10. If you want to dive deeper than the podcast, here's that link, right? Little reminders. You can also do a super signature, a footer on your email. P.S. When you're ready, here are ways we can work together. ABC listing. And then, of course, the typical launches we think of, right? But you got to get those in the calendar or they're never going to happen.
Gotcha. Okay. And you're very like email marketing, in my opinion, is something where it's a long-term play. Like it's not like you're gonna from one email the first time you send it. I think sometimes people think like I sent my email out to my very tiny list of 20 people and only, blah, blah, blah happened. And so how does somebody like set their expectations properly, play the long game, that kind of thing? Because like you said, you don't want to just rush into sales emails right away and that kind of thing.
Right. So, number one, it's just what Hailey said. You have to think of this as a long-term strategy, right? It's the outlier that says, "Oh, I made $1 million in 12 months." That's an outlier. That's an exception to the rule. The rule is this could take you 3 to 5 years. So if you need money right now, go to Hailey. She's going to help you with your services, right? She's going to help you find those clients on social media or through a referral network, right? But when you're ready for, I know who I'm talking about. Hailey super duper helped me nail that messaging and who I want to work with. Then we look to email, right? We can start building a list of those people. We can start pulling them from social media and then we can start selling from there, right? So just remember this is a long-term thing. If you need cash right now, go find some cash right now. But with email, you have to slow down to speed up. I think I might have already said that. Slow down to speed up. Build those blocks, right? So write the welcome sequence. Send out those weekly newsletters. Figure out what Hailey and I talked about earlier, that brand voice, that authenticity. Spend 6 months just writing newsletters with the only objective of I need to find out how I talk to my people, right? I need to find out what emails feel good for me to send. Experiment. And then, sprinkle in those sales. Oh, I hated writing that email. It felt so cringy. Oh, that was a really fun sales email to write. I'll do more of those, right? And so don't be afraid to experiment. And please, I say it with love, be patient with yourself, my friend.
Yes. Okay. And what if somebody is not like, let's say they have a list, they have been emailing, but it's not converting to any sales or book calls or anything like that, and they've been doing it for a really long time. Any things like what would be maybe the first thing you look at or evaluate to turn things around?
Yeah. Well, the first thing I would ask this person is how old is your email list and when was last time a new subscriber joined? Most of the time, if you tell me, hey, I've been emailing forever and it's just not working, You've probably been emailing the same 300 people for the last 2 years, and maybe you've changed your niche 10 times, or you've ghosted your list, right? Oh, the email list is 3 years old, but I've only sent 10 emails in those 3 years. I send one maybe once a quarter, right? So the frequency is not enough, or the list is the same 300 people who have told you, no, we don't want that, for the last 3 years, and you haven't found anyone new. So I would really invite you to start growing your list. Email list is like water. When water becomes stagnant, you don't try lots of different strategies to make it fresh. You just put new, fresh water in and get it flowing, right? That's the same with your email list. If nothing is working, don't try to bleach it. Don't try to force those subscribers into the hole you want them to be in. Find new subscribers that are already there. Get your email list flowing. And then number 2, be consistent. You cannot expect results when you only email once a month, when your email list is 5 years old and you've changed your niche or whatever 3 times in that time. You have to be consistent. You have to say the same thing over and over. Marketing, true marketing, is not saying 100 different things. It's saying one thing 100 different times. That's when you can get something to stick.
Yes, amen. Okay. And how many emails, I know this will come up for people, is too many emails? Like, do you have a philosophy on that? Because some people are like, oh no, it's way too much to email my list more than once a week, or more, things like that.
Yeah, well, it's in the words of Luther Vandross, never too much, never too much, never too much, baby. Think of your ideal person. How often do you need to email them in order to stay top of mind, to become relatable, to show that you're invested? I say once a week is a great rule of thumb. Daily is not too much for most people. Most people think, oh, I would hate daily emails. But if they like you, they'll love your emails. I send daily emails in Q4. So around Black Friday, when everybody and their mother is blasting things out, I'm trying to stay ahead of all the noise. So I increase from weekly to daily. Now, if you're sending 2-3 times a day for no good reason, that might be too much. But if you're sending 2-3 times a day during a launch, that's not too much.
Gotcha. Okay. So what's next for Liz and 2025?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So in 2025, I'm looking to grow my YouTube channel. I just started a daily podcast, so I'm going to start putting it on YouTube, and I'm hoping to, grow over there, start a live show like Hailey, and see what happens. I'm really excited to find new content creators, service providers, online business owners over on YouTube.
Amazing. All right. Well, where can everybody connect with you? We'll definitely put the links to your membership and all that good stuff in the show notes. But where can everybody find you?
Yeah, of course, I'm an email marketer. I would love for you to join my email list. You can go directly to lizwilcox.com. In the top right-hand corner, there's a hot pink button. You can't miss it. You're going to get a welcome sequence. You're going to get 3 newsletter samples, and you're going to get 52 subject lines for a year full of prompts, all for free. lizwilcox.com, hot pink button. You can't miss it.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for being here, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks so much.
Thanks so much for listening to this podcast, and if it's really helpful for you, I'd really appreciate if you share it and or leave a written podcast review. This tells the podcast sites that our show is useful, and it will be promoted to more people that way. Thanks again.